Welcome to Charts This Week. My name is David Linton, I run Updata, and this week's edition for Monday the 15th of August comes to you from London. We start by looking at Brent. Quite a strong recovery here in Brent over the last couple of weeks. We see here the correlation is still negative with the dollar. We did come below the cloud on the lagging line, and we have recovered a little bit on the price, but we see here that we are sort of back in the cloud. So the big question is, was this a breach, and are we finding support in the cloud, or will we come away lower? But this time of year we know the seasonality is quite poor, so we shouldn't be surprised to see further falls yet. So this is quite likely a move below the cloud. We see here on the 60-minute chart on Brent that we are bullish in the short term, and we can just take a quick look at that. Just remember to press the T key on your Updata system. All these prices coming from Thomson Reuters icon. There is a new breakout target to $50 on the short-term chart, but nothing much more than that. So keep an eye on those charts. If we look at the WTI chart, nudging just $45 here. Shift T again, just press the T key, $48 there on the chart. So we do have a little bit of upside. Of course, if you're trading crude in the shorter term, all these prices coming in from Thomson Reuters icon, press the T key on your chart, and we do have another downside target of 45.80, about 2.7% downside if we make lows below the 47 level. So this 47 level is just quite key for the short term view on crude. If we take a look at US NatGas, is still in this recovery phase on the daily chart. We're above. We did get as high as $3. We just couldn't break that $3 level. And if we look at the 60-minute, the daily chart, we see here we're on the cloud, but the seasonality is not great at this time of year in the summer for NatGas prices. So we do need to just be a little bit aware of that. And that's showing up in the 60-minute chart. We're below the cloud. The trend is negative. Press the T key. We do have an upside target to 278. Prices have fallen back to 255 very quickly. We need to move back above 262 to activate that target. That's on the 60-minute chart. Of course, if you're trading NatGas very short term, use the 1-minute chart. Press the T key, and here we see we've got upside targets 280 if we can break this 262 level, but a lot of downward resistance there as well. We take a look at European gas prices, fallen away very heavily over the last several weeks. We see here was looking very hopeful for a long-term recovery. Here we see the correlation with Brent crude. These prices coming off the Updata energy feed, real-time OTC consolidated broker prices, or off your Trayport screen. And this correlation chart is using Thomson Reuters icon crude oil price between the OTC prices. And we see here on the 60-minute chart just how vicious this fall has been over the last couple of weeks. We've fallen from 38 all the way back to 30, so very sharp falls there. Downside targets were given at 34 to 31.50, and another one given at 33 to 30.30. We've gone to those targets. You really can't ignore these targets when you see them on the chart. If we take a look at the 1-minute chart, of course, if you're trading, this is MBP front month. We've got a downside target, again given at 32.70 to 29.70, so about 1% further downside. No new targets kicking in. TTF, much the same picture here. And if we look at the 60-minute chart, again, prices either off your Trayport screen or the Updata energy feed. Press the T key, and we can see here the falls have been so sharp that that there's no new meaningful price projections on the chart. So we do need to be aware that we might be near a place of exhaustion there. If we take a look at European power markets, German power has held up well. So the gas markets have really suffered. Here we see the calendar contract in German power not fallen away anywhere near as heavily as gas, still holding on to this bullish trend. Would be very bullish above 28.50, certainly 29. A new high is what's really needed to confirm this trend, but at the moment we're holding in there. If we take a look at the 60-minute chart, this data again coming off your Thomson, coming off the energy feed or Trayport, we see here the noise that we're in between the sort of 28.50 and 26 level, and at the moment we do have a little upside target of 28.10 of about 4% with an uptrend, so we tend to favour that. But of course, if you're trading German power, the chart to look at is the 1 minute chart. Press the T key again, all from your consolidated prices off Trayport or the broker feed. No true upside targets here. We do have these downside targets hanging over us at the moment. So the trend is up, but we do have these downside targets here. Quite a difficult one to call at the moment. French baseload, like German baseload, holding on to the price. Here we see it's below the cloud, have been below the cloud on the weekly chart, just starting to come through. Is this a long-term recovery? This is German power there. So we see here Italian power above the cloud and French base, the 60-minute chart. We can just get a quick handle on the targets here as well. Downside targets back to the support level, and we've got some upside targets looking fairly good still on the upside. If we take a look at currencies, dollar index is back above the cloud here on the daily chart. On the 60-minute chart we're below. New highs on the dollar index would mean the dollar would really run. We do have this 103 target. This is the 60-minute chart, remember. These downside targets were given and met in April. Now we're getting upside targets. Is suggesting a revival on the dollar, although at the moment, in the very short term, it's just in a downtrend. So that is quite key. We look at the euro. We see here on the euro chart, we are still below the cloud, so slightly bearish, but quite a lot of choppy. Euro dollar in a real sort of sideways trend. We look at the 60-minute chart, we see that trend. So big move up, down, and then up again. Press the T key on your chart, and here we see we've got a big target down to 101 if we see new lows below 109.40. But at the moment we're playing for the upside, 114.40, 115.50. So the upside is favoured. Of course, if you're trading the euro short term, 1 minute chart, all coming off Thomson Reuters icon, press the T key and play with the box size down in this right hand corner, and you'll see here we don't have a lot of upside thrust targets kicking in there at the moment. If we go to Sterling just nudging these new lows against the dollar, so that's quite interesting. It is actually making new lows against other currencies like the euro, so it is quite interesting that we are seeing that playing out. Of course, long term on sterling, we're still pretty bearish. 108 is a downside target, and this more recent move has given us a target even below 1. So sterling to a dollar nearer 1 is quite likely. A fall out of the 120s is something on the longer term we'd be looking at. If we look at the 60-minute chart, press the T key, 126.30, 127.10. Here we see the euro pound chart. This is obviously inverted, so here we've got targets to 91. So at the moment we really are seeing that euro sterling relationship narrow in as well. And then if we look here, Norwegian krona about just hovering around the 920 level to the euro. Swiss franc much the same, just hovering at that level. And here we see sterling Swiss really going lower there, so 126 we're seeing moves to new lows below the post-Brexit lows, so sterling looking pretty weak. If we take a look at stock markets, here we see the S&P 500 index. Quite interesting that the downside targets have come off this chart. We've now got an upside target of 27% upside. Again, the downside thrust targets have been negated with a move to new highs. Remember, new highs from a technical analysis perspective are good. We've got upside potential of 2,711, 2,780. That's about 25% upside, let's just say. Very bullish here above the weekly cloud, bullish above the daily, bullish above the 60-minute, and we have a little mini upside target to 331, but that is not activated yet. We need a new high to activate that chart, so a move above 2190 would do that. So the S&P to the NASDAQ chart, making new highs on the weekly as well, new highs on the daily, new highs on the 60-minute chart, getting nice upside targets here, about 22% upside as well, 19% upside target here in place. Note how we bounced off support, really quite key. Short-term trend is bullish, but no clear upside targets on the 60-minute chart. If we take a look at the FTSE 100 index, we see here bullish, back above the cloud is bullish. We're not taking out the 2015 high, so unlike American markets, we're not making new highs. The daily chart is bullish, the 60-minute chart is bullish. Upside potential of about 19% here on the 1% chart. On the medium-term chart, we're only getting closer targets of about 2 and 4% upside, but on the 60-minute chart, we do have 2% short-term target, so FTSE should have another good week. The DAX is just recovering above the weekly, so that's starting to look a bit more encouraging. Has been looking weaker as an index. The daily is above, the 60-minute is above. No clear real upside targets here. We do have one that was given back in 2014, and we do now seem to be breaking out to that upside here on the 0.5% chart of 14-15%, so that is looking more positive. But again, no short-term upside targets. It does make the DAX harder to call. If we look at the Nikkei, below on the weekly, just coming back above on the daily, we do have these downside targets hanging over us still, both on the 1% chart, about 20% downside, and the 0.5% chart. If we make new lows, Japan has got significant downside. But at the moment, we are trying to make moves to the upside, and the shorter term chart is showing 10% upside potential. So Asia could really go a bit either way. If we look at the Chinese market, that's starting to look better too. We are still below on the weekly. We are seeing a bit of recovery here on the daily chart. These downside targets still hanging over us long term, but we have got some new upside targets to play for. The short term chart not really giving us much of a heads up as to what's going to happen in the short term. If we look at the Australian market, just turned bullish on the weekly. The daily is above. The 60 minutes just turning bullish again, getting some quite nice upside targets here: 31%, 7%, 19%. So we're seeing all targets in a similar sort of range, and a short-term target of about 6% there. So we are seeing some improvements. So if we look at the Sensex, Sensex is turning bullish on the weekly, bullish on the daily. We've got some very nice short-term upside targets: 12% medium-term, 52% long-term. But really, this cluster of short-term targets is really very interesting on the Sensex. We are seeing targets of 7, 5, 4% upside. We do have a downside target hanging over us, but we'd need new lows to activate that. So the Indian market is probably still the best looking Asian market. Last of all, we take a look at gold. Bullish on the weekly, bullish on the daily. Just turned bearish last week on the 60-minute chart in a really choppy range. We've got great upside potential targets here: 27%, another 28% target, but we need a new high above 1375 to activate that, 1380 say. 11% upside on the medium-term chart, and then we do have some downside targets here. But gold up this morning, so we are just seeing a little bit of improvement there. That's it for this week. Until next week, happy charting. See you then.